of two minds on my favourite Doctor's first release. I love it. It's very, very nice. It's his final season costume in the brown jacket. It's very, very accurate to the costume seen on screen. But my problem is the prototype looks so much better. Because the prototype, it was a lot darker brown and there was more details. I'll point out the glaringly obvious thing in a moment. Essentially, it's a brown-based t-shirt with a brown print of the lapel here in a slightly darker shade, which is a very light print. It's not, you can't feel the texture of it or anything. And then you have a print in this sort of funneled shape to show that the jacket hanging over the jumper and the shirt. Now the shirt is done very, very nicely. The collars are in a white colour, as they are there, with the button open there, with a little bit of grey foreshadowing. They're not the same on both sides, which is always good attention to detail, as it never matches up. You've got the cut of the shirt there underneath as well, for where the collar ends. And you have his paisley tie. Now the paisley tie is done quite nicely. That pattern is pretty much spot on to the pattern seen in the show, for a paisley pattern done in reds and bits of blue and white. But I'm sure that tie is meant to be red. I mean brown even. In his final season, the hat bands and the handkerchief and even the scarf changed to brown, more of a brown burgundy paisley colour than the red. And this looks like it's the red for his first costume. But it has got hints of burgundy and red in it, so I don't mind so much, and it's only a minor change. And this was the first release, so they can only improve it with the second release. And then you have the blue collar of the jumper, which is my favourite part of this t-shirt, the jumper itself. This is done in slight, subtle blues and greys with darker blues on the inner parts of the jumper's collar to give it that sort of impression of the pattern, the stitching effect of the jumper's collar. And then you have pale blues and darker greys to imply the zigzag dividers for the question marks on the jumper. And then you get to the question marks, which are very, very nicely done. These question marks are squashed a lot more than the ones on the shirts. They're a lot paler and they're a bit smudged as they are on the jumper to give it that sort of stitched effect. And this one is spot on because this question mark isn't fully seen on the jumper because of the colour of the jumper itself. And then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows that get slightly smaller towards the bottom, but 6 rows is correct, unlike on the figure, which has 7. So they got the amount of rows of question marks correct, and depending on the cut of the t-shirt and what size you have, you'll get more question marks and more of the jumper. But on this one, because it's small, you only get this row. But on the prototype, this coat was all open, and essentially you had a lot more of the jumper. The jumper came out sort of here. Now why have they done that? Is it cost or whatever? But I don't know. This is why I'm in two minds about this t-shirt. I love it, but the prototype just looked a bit better. And then at the bottom you have a blue and yellowy mix for the bottom pattern of the jumper, the thick band at the bottom, which is done very, very nicely. And then the final detail for this really is the handkerchief, which is done in a mixture of black and red. Now, as I said, his final season, it should really be burgundy. The pattern is done very subtly with the blacks, but you can just about see it. It looks very, very nice on there, the paisley pattern, which is very, very nice indeed. But like I said, it should really be a burgundy colour or brown, and because the handkerchief has a mixture of different colours in it, the real thing, it should be a little bit more vibrant than that. So that's the 7th Doctors, but before I finish, I want to just refer to the prototype again for this t-shirt. Where's his scarf? Now, the prototype's got the scarf on it, but this version doesn't have the scarf, and the scarf is something he wore all the time. So on this one at least, they removed it, but it was put on his other t-shirt, which I actually prefer a bit more. So that's a shame that my favourite Doctor's costume was stripped down a little bit on this release, but it's still nice. It's a bit more subtle than Colin Baker's. I mean, if I just get that one back, if you compare the two, that one compared to that one, it is a bit more subtle. You have to be a brave person indeed to go out with that one. I have, and my dad has, but, you know, each to their own. And this one is very, very nice all the same. I'm not trying to bash it or anything because it's my favourite Doctor, but there are things that could have been better with this first release. So, the next one is the 8th Doctor, Paul McGann's t-shirt. So, Paul McGann's t-shirt is a green base print to represent the green coat he wore, the dark bottle green. It's done in a very dark green, whether it's dark bottle green I don't know. And it's a very, very nice t-shirt based on his movie costume. You have big black buttons going down the coat, which is as it is on the actual jacket itself. These are done in blacks and greys. You have a little trim here to highlight his velveted lapels on the jacket, which are done in blacks, and then you have lighter greys, and then the darker black again, which is how the lapels actually were on the real costume. The buttons go down here as well, and then the collar on this side is a little bit different to the other one. And then you have the Victorian shirt, which is done very, very nicely here. The cravat covers most of it, but as you can see, you just got hints of the shirt there. And then the velvet cravat has been done really nicely in a sort of mixture of silver and white and greys and blacks to imply that little bit of a velvety material effect. And it just works quite well on this waistcoat. It is meant to be a silvery one, and there should really be a button there in black which they've missed, but it doesn't matter because this t-shirt still looks very, very nice all the same. And then the waistcoat is the double-breasted waistcoat with the dark buttons going down the side. The cut of it done here where the two bits join, done very, very nicely. This has been done in a mixture of mustard yellow and sort of paler colours and browns to give it the desired colour as seen on screen, and then a little hint of the pattern that we're seeing on the waistcoat here, the sort of stars going down the front. And that's basically it for the 8th Doctors. It's a bit more subtle than other t-shirts. There's not as much detailing on it, but this one's quite a nice one, and I didn't see many of these knocking about in Forbidden Planet. So if you see this one, track it down. But who knows, in future we may get Paul McGann's other costume, which is essentially the same, but it was a little bit different to the others. But that was the 8th Doctors, a very, very nice t-shirt. And basically, starting to wrap up this video now, we are into the new series territory with the 9th Doctor's t-shirt. Now, the 9th Doctor's t-shirt, if you've seen his costume, you're not going to get much, as his was a very, very simplistic costume. It's a black base print to represent the black leather jacket. As you can see, they've done that with whites and greys to imply the collar here, which is done very, very nicely in all these lines. You have buttons printed in whites and greys and blacks going down the side. Little hints of the jacket there to give it the sort of leathery effect. You've got the buttonholes here and the pockets that he has. The buttonhole on the lapel there as well, and you have more of the detailing at the side for the pockets, but there's not really that much detail on this costume I can talk about. The interesting part, and thankfully the bit of colour on it, because otherwise it would be a very plain one indeed, is the purple blue jumper that he wore, which has got a nice dark purple for the collar here, with the divided section in the middle as it is on the costume, and then a mixture of light and dark purple to imply creases in the jumper and the detailing. But essentially there's not much on the Christopher Eccleston t-shirt. It's a nice t-shirt, one of the more subtle ones in the range, and it's just nice to have this one. I hope in future they release 2 more of these. I would like to have one with a burgundy print in the middle, or even the green, so it's a little bit more alive, because this one, it isn't really that interesting as a t-shirt because it is just black and a dark colour, like his costume was. So that's Eccleston's. It's a nice one, I'll admit it is a nice one. I'm not trying to bash any of these t-shirts, but it could have done with a little bit more, really, but there's not much you can do with a subtle costume. So the next one is the 10th Doctor's. Yeah. Now, everybody knows me and the 10th Doctor, we're not the best of friends because he's not, I like him, but he's, you know, I just think he did the job and that was it. I enjoyed him while he was on, but I preferred what came after. His t-shirt is nice. I will admit, it's on a brown printed base with a lighter brown print for it, the colours of his long trench coat even. The buttons are done nicely with blacks and whites with the big thick buttons, and then the edges done in the white, which is nice. There's 4 going down here. So the impression of his coat is done very, very nicely. You have the shirt collar and the shirt here, which is just white, and his tie done in a very dark red, pink and black pattern. I can't tell what the pattern is, but I do know which series this is meant to be. And you have his pinstriped suit done very, very nicely in a dark blue with black and bitty white stripes. So that impression of his costume is done very, very well, even to the point where the collar of the suit is got a different line pattern to the rest of it, which is correct for how it should be. And then you have the buttons fastened here, done in blues and blacks, with the buttonholes, with the bottom one not fastened up. And then it continues down here. My problem with this t-shirt, and it's a minor problem, it's nothing major, it's too thick. The print on this one is very, very thick compared to the rest of the t-shirts. So wearing it, especially at the front, it feels like you're wearing a layer of paper or even cardboard at the front. And if you eventually, if you start to wear this one a lot, it's going to crumble and crack a lot easier than the others because of how thick the paint is. And it's mainly where the pinstripe suit is. The rest of it's fine, it's just this huge bulk is so thick that I don't wear this one very often because of that reason. I'm worried it's going to be ruined. But it is a nice coat. I want to make that clear. It's a very, very nice t-shirt and representation of the 10th Doctor's costume from Series 3 and 4. So that's the 10th Doctor's costume. Like I said, the only issue I have with the costume is, with the t-shirt even, I keep calling it costume because I'm going into cosplay mode. The only issue is how thick the paint is on that one. But the final t-shirt, and to wrap up this video, is my favourite out of the lot, and it's the 11th Doctor's Matt Smith's. Now this is the 11th Doctor's, a brown print base, but this, I couldn't wait for this one to come out when it was released because it's Matt Smith. Come on, Matt Smith is amazing. Matt Smith is so good. I miss Matt Smith quite a bit, and it's the whole reason I do cosplay now, was thanks to the 11th Doctor himself, so thanks, Matt. And I do miss you indeed. So basically this is a brown print on a different shade of brown, and it's based on his Series 5 costume with the very odd patterned shirts that used to interfere with the camera. It's the tweed jacket he wears in a couple of episodes. This is the waistcoat, the tweed jacket he more commonly wore than the other one that he lost in Time of the Angels and Flesh and Stone. I think it was Flesh and Stone, yes. And basically the tweed pattern is printed brilliantly in a mixture of black and the brown, and the highlight on the detailing is brilliant. You get the tweed impression straight away, and you get the cut of the jacket done very, very well. The buttons are done in the red, which are how they are for this particular tweed jacket. It's the Pandorica Opens one, I believe, which is the last time it appeared, but I do believe it's the Pandorica Opens tweed jacket. And the pattern is textured slightly differently on both sides to give different hints of the tweed, and it just makes it that bit more interesting. The buttonholes are missing for the jacket, but I don't think they were there. I'm not sure. But the shadow effect here really helps to highlight the collar, and it does highlight the details of the tweed very, very nicely. And the bow tie is done really, really well. The red bow tie, which you've all seen me wear, and you know I have. Nice and thin, not like his slightly bigger one. The black line to divide the two little split to do this dip in the material. The knot in the middle highlighted with red and black, so you know it's the knot. You can see the shirt above it, and then the shirt is a mixture of whites, browns and reds to imply the burgundy shirt that he wore. He had a burgundy one and a navy blue, and then you've got the sort of swivelly pattern going all the way down, getting slightly darker at the bottom for the shadow that's cast by his jacket, and that just goes down really, really nicely and continues all the way to the bottom, and white and little red dots have been used to represent the buttons. And that's pretty much it for that t-shirt. This is a very, very nice t-shirt. This one I love. The most commonly worn out of the collection you've seen. I really like this one. I wore this one the most at university for a little bit of information. And it's just brilliant. It's really, really nice. And like I said, the print isn't too thick like on the Tennant one, so it's really, really good. And they did, of course, do variants. They did the blue variant of that costume as well. So that's pretty much it for this episode. So I'd basically like to thank you for watching this episode. It's been a long one, I know. There's 11 t-shirts and that's a lot to get through. I'm sure uploading and editing this one is going to be a lot of fun. All in one day, I should mention. But essentially, if you want my opinion, I think all of those are worth collecting. If you can't afford to do proper cosplay, those t-shirts are a good alternative because you don't have to go out and buy all the different bits and bobs, spending hundreds and sometimes thousands of pounds. You can have a representation of your doctor or doctors done in a t-shirt print very, very nicely. There's variants if you don't like particular ones, like the third Doctor one, for example, was done in orange. They did a City of Death 4th Doctor. They did the cream 7th Doctor one with scarf, which I'll go into in another episode, and the navy blue Matt Smith, and the jacketless Matt Smith as well. So there are variants out there for you to have. They're all £15, so you can imagine getting the whole lot costs a fair bit. So you may have to collect them over the course of a year. Mine took me a year at least to collect all of them. But they are worth it. They're all really, really nice t-shirts. So thank you for watching this video, guys. The next video will either be Scarves That Walk in Eternity, looking at the 4th Doctor scarves, or it will be Umbrellas, Hats and Spats, looking at the various 7th Doctor paraphernalia they've released, and getting a bit of help from you to put that costume together, as I do want to cosplay the 7th Doctor. But when that one happens depends entirely on when the umbrellas are released, as I've got 2 of those on the way. So thank you for watching this episode, guys, and I shall see you in another Who Cosplays. Director opens. See you next time.